All right, what's up, Gobby?
Hey, Herman, how's it going, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Drelic's running late, and I'm gonna try to get this shared to the training group if possible.
Sounds good, man.
How's your training been going?
Man, I'm up about 6 pounds in body weight. I had a really good practice last night. It's all coming into play. I'm on pace. Everything's good. Inflammation is low. Diet's on target. A good combination of static and dynamic. Focusing more on table and static, obviously, but I should be prepared. I should be in good shape.
When you say up 6 pounds, what are you up to?
162. I was light. I was detoxing most of the winter.
Oh,
So I was light.
geez.
Yeah, I was down to 155 most of the winter, just detoxing, not doing heavy stuff, doing mostly cardio and intermittent fasting with 1,500, 1,600 calorie per day. So my weight dropped a bit. Yeah. So yeah, 161, 162 with a target of 170, 175, hopefully. But my diet's fairly clean. I don't want to start getting bloated or putting on bad weight. So any weight I gain is clean weight. When I say clean, I mean from whole foods, nothing, no preservatives, nothing synthetic.
So are you eating meat?
No meat. 6 eggs a day, bio eggs, so free range eggs. That's it. That's my only animal protein source is from 6 eggs a day. Free range.
So no fish.
No fish, no chicken, no meat, no beef, no pork. The rest is just, and I still get right now I'm getting 150 to 170 grams per day. So I'm still getting all my grams in that I need.
And from a technical standpoint, are you using a riser? We had talked about this previously.
Actually, see, I take everything you say with tremendous amount of value. And you like me on the riser, and I can do it sometimes, but I find I lose so much lateral game. But I said I cannot give up. I cannot open against Bowen, right? I cannot be open against Bowen. I don't think so. For him, I have to try to do something. But the 4-inch riser is too dramatic. I'm too high, and I know it's good to defensively hold someone. The transition game is not there. All I can do is hold until they fatigue. So what I did is I created like a 2.5-inch riser, and I used that last night, and I loved it. I got everything. I got a good defensive lock. I was tight, my shoulder behind my arm at every point. And when I transitioned, I was able to transition with quite a bit of force. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll play with that.
Do a shoe attachment or something that like Velcros to the bottom of your shoe?
Well, that's what I did. What I did is until I know exactly where I want to be, I'm not going to go get anything made. But I just bought some thick rubber, like carpeting, cut it into segments and shoved it under a boot with a shitload of duct tape. And made sure I had a 2.5 inches under the sole to give me about 3.5 or 3 to 3.5 total rising, just to play with it. And I might add or subtract. It looked terribly, pathetically ludicrous, but just try and see how it feels. But I have to do something. I have to try to keep my elbow when I'm open and I'm pulling so much through my elbow. It's not long before it gets inflamed. So I'm trying to do something to, and I still got a little over a month to work on that, and so we'll see. But yes, I felt really good last night with it.
And how tall are you?
5'7".
Oh yeah, so man, 4 inches would make us. You're like right on borderline.
Well, I think I was telling the guys last night. They were asking me, and I said I think the table's built for 5'11", because over 5'11", or even you can argue 6 foot, but even over 6 foot, people have to start spreading their legs quite a bit to get a good base. Under 5'7" or 5'8", they almost have to. On a defensive position, unless they have a very long torso or long arms, they're extending a lot. Their arms are extending on the defensive side of the table, especially if they don't have pronation. So what happens is, I think anyone 5'7" or 5'8" that's a defensive arm wrestler needs to pretty much have a little bit of rising aid, and which is why you see someone like 6'4", 6'5", or like Devin or Matt Mask, their legs are scissored out, because ideally that table's not built for them. It's built for 5'11" to 6 foot. It's not built for 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". So they really have to spread their legs and get down.
Yeah. And Paul Lynn asked, why don't you eat meat? I don't think we've ever talked about it on the show. So what's your overall stance and positioning on, I guess, vegetarianism?
Yeah, around 2011, 2012, I just started getting I was training with a vegan in a Montreal club, and he just, I always laughed at him. He wasn't very strong, but he just started throwing me videos on the farming of animals and earthlings on YouTube and stuff like that. And it was just so brutally it was just brutal and terrorizing that I just figured, man, I just didn't feel good. I went to the grocery store. I just stopped buying meat and started buying healthier stuff and whole grain stuff. And then from that standpoint, so basically I started off with an ethical standpoint. I wanted to do it ethically just to feel better. And it cleared up a lot of inflammation in my shoulders and elbows. So I said, well, maybe there's health ramifications, which obviously, there is. Not so much cutting out meat, but just cutting out, when you eat a lot of meat, generally you're eating a lot of processed shit. Like you can have meat eaters that follow a much healthier diet than a vegan. Like there's no direct correlation. But for me, that lifestyle was a lot more conducive to dealing with my inflammation. And then I started losing a lot of weight, so I had to start to play with that diet so that I could start do research and get all my micronutrients and get all my protein in that I needed. So then I really had to tailor that diet. And once I did, I maintained a good level of, maintaining 165, 170, strong, thick. I mean, you've seen me in the last couple of years, 170, 172, and, 17-inch arms, tons as strong as I've ever been. Even when I was cycling off, I was still as strong as I've ever been. So I don't believe now, but when I say vegan, I still always pretty much, give or take a few days a week, I'm pretty much always eating 3 to 6 eggs a day. So, I mean, that plays a part. There's tons of good things in an egg. So that helps. If I got off eggs and I got off that, then I don't know what would happen. It would probably, I'd probably lean out quite a bit. Or I'd have to consume a lot more hemp protein.
So once you transitioned and learned how to cover your nutritional basis, you didn't see any difference in strength. So is that fair?
Repeat that?
Once you transitioned into a vegan diet, you were able to learn what you needed from a nutritional minimum standpoint. You were able to cover your mineral needs, your vitamin needs, your macro needs. You noticed no real difference in strength or performance.
Zero. In fact, I can argue that my performance, not in terms of high-end strength, but in terms of recovery, increased only because the food that was funneling into my system was not only like organic, like high-end nutrition. Like we're talking, I would put in algae in my shakes and stuff like that. Like I had like high-end food coming into me. When I do something, I don't do it like at 80%. I just went all in, no half measure. So I was just getting the best of the best I can get. And so I was sleeping better. So due to that, my test levels went up a little bit. I was recovering better. The inflammation through my body was being fought off very, very quick. So I was able to get on the table every week. And when I stray away from that, and I'm not saying straying away eating more meat, but sometimes I stray away and I'll have moderate junk food, processed food, even though maybe it's not terribly toxic, but it's not a pure whole food diet. And when I get away from that, all of a sudden, the same type of intensity at a practice where I could recover, feel better a day after, or even tax my elbows 2 days after, now it's like 3 or 4 days. So I know there's a direct correlation. Like I'm not talking to you. It's not anecdotal, right? I've actually, kept all the variables the same and to try to see how my body reacts. And I could tell you that I'm not necessarily stronger, however, not weaker. But in terms of recovery and fitness and stamina and just general health, my body's better and my mind's better, frankly, as well. But that's me.
Yeah. I mean, my only experience, I guess, with that sort of diet was a teacher in college that told me that I was going to die because die early because I was eating 4 pounds of meat a day. But she was morbidly obese. Yeah. One leg was gangrenous and she couldn't walk or stand to even teach the class. So I always thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm always be careful or skeptic of anyone that has an extreme stance on anything. Like if I came on here and I said, Herm, it's vegan or bust, don't know what you're doing, your viewers don't know what they're doing, I'm not credible, right? I've known meat eaters that are super healthy and super powerful. Like I believe there's a lot of value. I believe there's a lot of value in the keto diet. I believe there's a lot of value in the paleo diet. I think just the main the main constant is clean, whole foods in good balance and stay away from junk. Like,
Correct.
Basically, you'll
now,
be fine.
Are you the only vegan arm wrestler, I guess, in the North American scene?
Well, Rob Bigwood, I believe, right?
Oh,
Bigwood,
yeah.
But he's kind of in and out of the sport. And after the whole Game of Arms went to the shitter, I think he faded away. But But he was another example of, I don't believe he was a performance vegan. He was an ethical vegan, and he would eat a lot of like almond butter, and he wasn't counting protein. I talked to him once, and he wasn't counting protein. If you're a vegan, you have to count your protein because it's so hard. Well, it's more difficult to get your protein in when there's no meat in your diet. So you have to be a little bit more conscious of what's coming in, and to make sure at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, did I get 130, 140, 150, 160? I really have to be very, very observant of that. You have to, or else all of a sudden you start dropping muscle mass.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
All right, so I guess let's get into, I guess, one of the topics for the show, women's arm wrestling. It seemed, I think this year at the Arnold Classic, there were only 2 competitors in the, I don't know, middleweight or lightweight 143 division. I don't know the exact cutoff. And because there were only 5 people last year and 2 people this year, I think Leonard is going towards a single open weight class bracket for next year. And there's been a lot of outrage over it, including a lot of complaints this year about women not having equal opportunities or places to compete at a high level. And so I thought it'd be good for us to maybe have some discussion on it today, thoughts, comments, opinions, and maybe possible solutions. And maybe in the future we get someone who's considered a good representative of the female American pullers to come on the show and, I guess, expand on the discussion. But I mean, what are your thoughts, Gobby, when you see this happen from a bracket standpoint, and then the kind of reaction to that?
Well, I definitely empathize with the women, but however, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come. What happens is they're emotional, and a lot of them think the sport is misogynistic or there's a bias. But really, it doesn't favor men. It's just men come out in bigger numbers. Like if 65 women showed up at the Arnolds and wanted 3 weight classes, they would get 3 weight classes. Like, promoters are only going on numbers, and I've promoted an event before, and because women are notorious, the female support in arm wrestling is notorious for being weak at times, or depending on your area. I said, I'm not giving out anything to women. When you come in and you give me money, the money I get will go back out in percentages. So if there's 3 women in, 3 women will get, it'll come in, it'll go back out. I won't take a penny, yet I'm not buying trophies. I'm not investing anything. I'm not investing $200 to have 1 woman show up and me losing it. So I understand 100% on their desire to have an open class. However, at the same token, I feel bad for the women, but really there are certain women that are super loyal and travel well, and God love them. But in North America, the just general support is not that strong compared to. I find the comparison is Sweden. I mean, for some reason, Sweden has it like the women arm wrestling in Sweden is stronger than their male counterparts. So I just find something has to be studied in that respect. Why they're doing it so well. I think I have theories on why, but that's something maybe we can bring in. I'd love to bring in a North American female or an American female arm wrestler to talk about it. And I'd also love to bring in a Swedish one. Maybe we could have both on one show and have kind of like a good debate going, because I'm curious as an arm wrestler why there's not a stronger female contingency. I'm just curious, but it's definitely a hot topic, and I wish the sport had more support from them, because the loyal ones are definitely deserving. But it's tough when you're 130 pounds and the tournament's forced to put on an open class only because they can't justify. You're going to divide a class for 4 people. You can't do that. And that doesn't, they don't win. The sport doesn't win. The promoters don't win. I mean, we don't want to see that. So they have to come out in bigger numbers. Now, how do we do that? That I don't know. That we'll have to figure out in time. We'll need a lot more input in that respect.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the current female arm wrestling scene in the United States, Joseph? I mean, what are you seeing in your area? What do you think about the national scene?
In our area, it's pretty hit or miss. Sometimes we get really good turnouts, and then sometimes we get no chicks, right? So I don't even understand it. Like, you'll think that a bigger event will get more female turnout, but like we've had the Minnesota State Championship have a really good turnout one year, horrible turnout another year, and then a small event, just a regular, say, bar event, have a great turnout. And I don't really know what the remedy or formula is to get that turnout. Most of them obviously are new pullers. There's not a ton of new, or not new, but I shouldn't say there's not a ton of like veteran lady pullers in Minnesota. There's like 2 that have been pulling for maybe 4-5 years, I think, maybe, but they don't travel outside of the state. And that's Minnesota, right? And then like on the national level, I've only been to I went to USAF Nationals last year, and then I went to I guess you could call it Nationals, whatever. It was the USAA Pro-Am in Oklahoma. There was a decent turnout, not nearly as big.
We're losing?
I guess so.
Yeah.
So I guess from my perspective, I think obviously there's probably a lot of issues. I saw one of the comments was that, why would we go to an open weight class?
Or I don't know, man. I really don't know. I can't explain the effect of some turnouts having a lot of women and then not having a lot of women. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought some of the responses to the Arnold's decisions was pretty interesting. One of the comments was, "Oh no, you can't go to a single open weight class because it would be unfair for the lighter women to compete." Well, my response to that is that there have been lighter weight classes that weren't fully populated or fully supported. So in that sense, that lighter weight class had these opportunities to show up, to win money, and it was kind of wasted. So I really don't understand the complaint over losing a lighter weight class. It's as if now it matters because you took it away, but when it was there, no one cared. Thought that was pretty interesting. The idea that promoters should hold these weight classes for 2 and 3 people, that seems crazy. I mean, it's simply supply and demand. I'm a huge heavy metal guy, but guess what? My town doesn't get a lot of heavy metal shows. Should I complain that someone should be catering to me? Yeah, I'm not really buying that. And I think there are plenty of large events that are opportunities for the women, such as nationals. You can go to nationals, even if it's low attendance, and you can go to worlds, win a medal, or win the gold medal. Like, there are opportunities for these women. So I really don't get it. I mean, personally, if it's up to me, I wouldn't even focus on the Arnold Classic. I'd be focusing on possibly the world pass, because I can get a medal that possibly means a lot more. So I don't know. Maybe it's the same ideas that we have throughout the American arm wrestling community, in that, we want to go to a tournament that's not too big, not too competitive, not too many people, win a medal, have a good time. But I don't buy that there are not opportunities for women to be on a bigger stage.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a gender thing. It's just an arm wrestling thing. Just men are at a much larger scope in terms of volume. But what happens is you have 5% of the arm wrestling, whether female or male, that are just driven solely, internally driven, and they will find competition. They will find the tournaments. They will go to the tournaments. They will find the teams. They will find a way to get what they need. And then you have the other 95% that just want to be catered to. They're more the social arm wrestler type tier, and they just want to be catered to, and they want something local. And if it's local, they want their weight class. And this isn't strictly, I'm not directing this to women. This is also synonymous with men as well. But it's that catering, nurturing, cultural toxicity where people want something for them specifically instead of going and getting it. But I definitely do not, in any of this, I definitely do not blame promoters, because as a promoter, you're not in the business to lose money so people can be happy. Like, it's not good for the sport. Even if a promoter came in with tons of cash and was independently wealthy and says, I'm going to have 8 weight classes for women, I don't care, and then 7 women show up and there's 1 woman per weight class, and if you have 2, that's optically brutal for the sport. That just, everyone's happy, they all leave with a nice big medal and a trophy, but that looks terrible. Like, you cannot have that. If you cannot manufacture the numbers, you don't deserve the weight classes. And it goes, I think even as men, we have too many weight classes. I'm a light guy, and I still think 165 is too light. Not for nationals or stuff, but general tournaments. I think 3 weight classes is the max it should be held. Well, I don't like giving up 20 pounds. We'll just get fucking stronger. I think people are just whiners. They don't want to look for solutions. They want to complain and look for validity while they're failing, and that's part of the culture of our society. But like I said, the top 5%, they don't give a shit. They will find what they need. They will get what they need. They will seek out, like Doug. Doug wasn't asking someone to put on a tournament. Doug wasn't asking someone to spoon feed him a super match. Doug came out and said, "Here's 1,000. Who the fuck wants it?" No one bit. Finally, Wall said, "Okay, this guy's got balls. He's got some. He obviously has confidence. Let's get him on here." But that's a guy saying he's a 5%, right? I'm gonna go get what I need to get, and I'm not asking for any handouts. I'm not asking for anyone to meet me halfway. Here's 1,000. Who the fuck wants it? Show up or shut the fuck up. And you got to love that stuff. But we don't see it very often. It's like the 3 to 5%, if that. So I definitely don't think it's a failure with the promoters. I totally empathize with the promoters. I think the numbers are low. And even at practice, every once in a while, I'll see a woman at practice, and she's like, "Well, what's the point in coming to practice? There's no other girls to train with." I said, "It's not about." She says, "I can't beat any of the guys. It's not about beating the guys." Do you think Heidi Anderson, when she first went to a practice and there was no girls, she left because she was losing to guys? She probably said, "Yeah, watch this." And within 3 months, she was beating the weakest guy, and then she moved her way up the ladder through desire and discipline. But has that elite mindset. She's internally driven. She's special. She had the ilk of being a world champ. But that's what it takes. It takes someone to say, "I don't give a shit about the landscape. I will find what I need, and it'll fuel me." But that's not the case with most people, women or men in our sport. But it's definitely not the fault of the promoters. Promoters are going to do. I mean, the promoters are throwing in a 242 class at Arnold's next year because there was 28 guys in the heavy. So they see there's the numbers are there. People are coming out, so they're going to create a divide. They're going to create that extra weight class due to the great numbers and participation. And so, like I said, if 32 women, or 32 is an exaggeration, but if 18 women showed up next year at Arnold's in the one open class, and there was enough feedback and enough support for the year after, I'm sure in 2021 they'd say, "Okay, let's go back to a divide. Let's go 0 to 154, 155 up." But the numbers have to be there. No one's in business to lose money. That's across the board in everything, not just arm wrestling. That's business 101.
Correct. Joseph, do you guys have any females at your practices? Did we lose Joseph again?
No, man. Maybe he's in the washroom or something. I don't know.
All right. You got any ideas, Gobby? What would be possible solutions?
Well, what I do like, because the loyal women do have to be thrown a bone every now and then. The ones that are loyal and driven, I think it's good. And every once in a while, you see a promoter putting on an exclusive women's super match type 8 series or 6 series, or an invitational type thing. And I'm sure there's no money to be gained, but I think that's an amazing thing to do, just to keep the ones that are like the Angie Roses, the elite ones, to keep them, Deb Banyan, whatever, all these top tier North American women that are fairly consistent, keep them feeling like they haven't fallen off the radar type thing. So even though that's not a big money making thing from a promoter, every once in a while I see it, and I think that's an awesome thing. If I had more women support here, I would do it. In fact, there's a promoter local in Montreal named Avi Bench, and he's had a couple of events going on, WWA, and his events are 140, 150, 170 entries. It's getting quite big, and he's decided that in his next event, he's going to give guaranteed money for women's for the first time in his 2-year existence. So he's realizing that he might lose a little bit of money, but he's willing to make that sacrifice and meet them halfway and see if they come out. And of course, if they come out, awesome. But if they don't, it'll never happen again under his watch, right? We can understand that.
Right.
But he's willing to take a chance. And when he does that, and I said to him, "Good for you." And I hope they come out, because we do have decent female support in the area. But if they don't come out, fuck them. Like, fuck them. Like, you're given 1 chance, 2 chances. Here, a promoter's willing to lose a little bit of money to give you a little bit of the event you want and the weight class you want and the trophies and guaranteed this. So, put up or shut up type thing. But it's really nice to see. And I don't know how credible it is or how valuable it is in terms of a promoter standpoint. But I think every time I see that, I'm like, man, that's nice to see. It's nice to see a promoter go out on a ledge a bit just to give out to the women and trying to be optimistic that they'll come out. We have a lot. We have that, and I'd like to see that.
I'll say in the United States, I think the promoters have gone well past halfway.
Okay.
With the female arm wrestlers. I guess I'm at the 9-year mark now, and it just seems like every tournament or every other tournament has a bunch of goose eggs, zeros in the women's class.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Including like throwing away medals or trophies or having to recycle them, or having classes with 1 or 2 people, and then you go beg passerbys, hey, please sign up for this women's class, right? So personally, I think at this point, I think the promoters have done what they needed to do, and I don't feel bad if they stop. So I would say at this point, it's in the pullers' hands, and I recommend it to a couple of them in one of the Facebook threads that they need to organize the female wrestling community. They need to pick an event. They don't even have to do their own event. Just you guys need to internally organize, pick an event, you all show up to it. On top of that, get your own film crew, right? It could be Drellick, it could be somebody else. Film it professionally, put it on YouTube. You build your female community.
Yeah. Also, right? if the bottom 8 can teach us anything, it can teach us that if you promote yourself and you're willing to show a little bit of work ethic and a little bit of charisma and market yourself, you can go a long ways. You can make a little bit of money. You can get places, even though it over trumps your skill level. That sells these days. So like, I agree 100%. If women that are out there, that they want a little bit more exposure, get out there, be aggressive, market yourself, don't be shy. And that can only help you. And we see that a little bit, but we definitely need to see more of it.
And another thing that just crossed my mind, I guess in the last day or so, with respect to what event should they select, they should select the nationals, right? The USAF Nationals has women's classes. It has all the weight classes they could ever want. It has the name. It has the prestige. So when you film that, you put it online, you can claim it as the national title, the national championships. That's good for marketing. And when you get all these women to show up in the room, the 2 best can go to Worlds, and they can use that and market that, right? So I wouldn't even worry about all these local tournaments competing against 2 people. I probably wouldn't even, not to hurt Leonard Harkless, but I wouldn't worry about the Arnold Classic. Have all the women set their sights on the Nationals path and the WAF path, because, well, I guess you can go pro and focus on Zloty or something like that, but you'd have no local qualifiers. You would just have to go straight to Poland. But focus on that one. The infrastructure's there already.
Yeah,
I think it's that simple.
I think you're spot on, because in Canada, for as long as I can remember, we've only had 1 nationals, and although other smaller tournaments have lacked, I've never seen goose eggs. Like I don't think it's been that bad in Canada compared to what you claim. But nationals has always had a pretty good, and we've had women's national tournament has 3-4 classes, maybe more, but it's always had like 4 or 5 per class. Like, it's always been pretty good. Women usually come out in Canada for nationals. Maybe not in every single class, like in the lower weight classes, but generally there's a pretty good participation from women at our nationals. But I agree 100% with you. They got less on quantity and more on quality.
Yeah, and I think it's easy because you don't have to qualify for nationals. And we always know it's around May or April, May, or something like that.
We do. In Canada, we do.
Okay. But in the States, that's easy. Yeah. Save your vacation time. April or May, you need to go to nationals.
You're telling me you don't have to go to your state tournament to register at your state tournament to qualify for nationals in America?
Not currently. No. I think they may be trying to do that.
Yeah.
But if you want to kill it further, go ahead and add a qualifier.
Yeah. Well, we do that here, and I think it's terrible. Like, nationals are not as big as you think it could be here in Canada, and I think, like, many years I would have loved to gone, but I'm not spending $150, $160 going to nationals, gas, entry fee to qualify. Like, fuck, nothing kills the sport. 2 things kill the sport. One is the constant elbow fouls and the time frame of running a tournament, and the second thing is the qualification process. Those 2 things are killing the sport right there. Eliminate both those things, and you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and I think because nationals is so underattended and underrepresented, I think the women could overtake nationals and they become the highlight of the national team, not because they're better than the male side of American arm wrestling, but because they would actually go to nationals.
Plus, I will say this: there is one difference I see between the women and the male arm wrestling community in the United States, well, in Canada too. When it comes to going to your nationals, representing your country, I find from what I've seen, and I don't know why, but the women are a hell of a lot more loyal. They go there, they wear the Canadian shirt more. They really promote the Canadian, the nationalism when they go to Worlds more than the men. And I can say that on behalf of my country, not so much yours, but I find that they're really, really loyal. They take a lot of pride in it. And I don't know why that is, but that's definitely been universal in my experience here in Canada. And that's a good thing. So, why not exploit it?
What do you guys think? Let's open it up to training questions.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, send in your training questions.
I had a really good question from a kid in the Philippines. And he asked a great question that I didn't answer it because it's a multi-tiered answer. But I believe his question was, he has a small hand, and he said a small arm, but I believe what he meant was a short arm. Can he be a top roller, or is he exclusively restricted to becoming an inside puller? That's a great question. But his question is a little bit too simplistic. For example, we've seen great arm wrestlers with a very, very small hand and an average to long forearm. Pascal Girard. He was an amazing top roller. You can have one of those things. You can have a short forearm and a long, big hand, and you can be a great top roller. When you have a small hand and you have a short forearm, I've only seen one guy, and he was a posting top roller. His name was Gobby from Massachusetts, and he was a world-class Tier 5 stud back in the 90s and early 2000s. And he would just post. He had tremendous amount of back pressure, and he was insanely good in the strap, like almost unbeatable. Has 10 wins on Denny Dubray while weighing 132, right? Which is astonishing on its own. But he just basically commanded the strap, tremendous back pressure, so it can be done. But I find when you're talking about a low hand top roll, you need length. You need either a long hand or a very long forearm to be a low hand top roller, because you need that space and that gap. But a posting top roll is different. I think a posting top roll, a short forearm, is actually an advantage. Because if you and I, Herman, are equal strength, equal weight, equal across the board, but I have the shorter forearm, and our hand strength is identical, and we line up and we're both posting. If you would look at that from a side view, from a rest view, I have an advantage only because I have more height. You have to come down to me, your angle is open, my angle is tighter. Now, the problem with that is generally the longer arm has the bigger hand. Very rarely do you see a short arm with a dominant, big, strong, long hand. It just doesn't work like that structurally. So we rarely see that. But John Brzezinski once said, if he can build an arm wrestler from scratch, the ideal template, it would be a very short forearm, a very big, strong bicep, and a very, very big hand. That way he can post everything, get everything to his side, and hand control with positional and leverage advantage as well. So the answer to that kid is, you can do it, but the key will be a posting top roll, not a low hand top roll. You have to come high through the knuckle, and a lot of matches are going to go to the strap, and you're going to have to become a very good strap puller. But you're definitely climbing a mountain when it comes to that. But what are you going to do? We all have our restrictions, but definitely posting. The short forearm has the advantage in a posting top roll. Me and Drellick, I try to low hand him. Doesn't matter how weaker he is in the other aspects, he will eat me up. If I post with him, and I can, because my bicep, anyways. My bicep does not get used in the low hand; it gets used in the post. The post is a bicep driven move, as long as you can keep your riser. So that as I bring the match to me, he opens up. So the posting top roll is ideal for someone with a short forearm who can keep his rising position. However, that's why you see guys like Matt Mask and very tall arm wrestlers do that low hand thing. The low hand thing, although I don't believe it's a dominant move, I don't think I teach it to anyone who's has an average build. But the low hand works well for someone with a very big long hand and or a very, very long forearm, only because you're so high. You're already starting on a high position. You can get right on the back fingers of the opponent. Yeah. So that's my answer to him and his team members.
Good answer.
It is good. I agree.
How many times per week should you train hands and forearms?
Every day.
Boom.
Yeah. I don't. I think if you
every day, all day.
The question with that is always, it's never that simple. You need to know what's the volume. If I say,
some capacity all day, every day, to some capacity.
Yeah. If I put 500 on an axle deadlift bar and I say lift it every day, you're eventually going to develop tendonitis or carpal tunnel. So I mean, but low volume, some of the strongest hands I've ever.
Wait, Gobby, wait. You're going to develop that, or am I going to develop it?
You both will.
Oh, hell no.
What is that? On a 3-inch axle handle, 500 pounds, you're not repping that out.
Axle's usually 2 inches, but okay.
2. You're not repping that out. You might get 3, you might get 2, but do that every day for multiple, 5-10 sets.
I wouldn't even crack daylight under that. No way.
No, I'm just saying as an example, it's volume, it's intensity based. If I wrist curl a pencil, I can do that 20 hours out of a 24-hour day and not overtrain. So it depends on what you're working with. But I prefer, me personally, I prefer dividing hand into attack and defend. Attack being pronation and rising, defend being cupping and back finger containment. And I alternate. So I alternate. So what?
You actually train pronation, top roll?
My left. Jimmy, my left.
Shut the front door. Shut the door, dude. No, I don't believe it.
Anytime you want a super match, Jimmy, where we only go top roll, if anyone loses, if I drop my top roll, if I have to hook, I lose the match. Any money, anytime, we go left, top roll, left only super match. Anytime you want. My left can roll. My left can roll. Can it roll with Dan Blanchard? Hell no.
Actually, no. I believe you, dude, because I actually was reviewing the footage. You top rolled a couple of dudes right at the pad at Michigan.
No,
believe it or not.
Left arm?
I won't say top rolled, but you had the intention of going with some hand control, not just that hook only bullshit.
It looks that way, but what happens is it's what they're doing. They're giving up something, and it looks like I'm taking.
Yeah. They were giving it up to. Yep. No, I agree.
But my left.
But no, my left. You want to try and go top roll for top roll with me? Are you serious?
Yeah, and if it goes straps, it'll probably go straps. There has to be pronation in the strap. I cannot suck you in and drag you. It has to be pronation.
You're not going to be able to.
Well, let's do it then.
Oh,
call it.
But you're going to throw an astronomical amount of money at me.
Dude,
some bullshit like I don't want to pull you amount.
I might be poorer than you, man. I mean,
I don't think so.
You live in a van. I live in a basement. Let's not.
Hey, you're right, but it's a sweet van.
Whatever. Yeah, it is a sweet van. I'll give you that. It is a sweet ass van. Let's go a couple hundred. Let's go 50. I don't care. Just to prove to you that my left can go high with tier 1 to tier 2. 154, 165 guys. We're not talking the tier 3.
My God.
I had a question directed at you right before I got onto the show. Artem.
Fucking that guy.
I want to know. Ask Drellick what tier he believes he falls under. So, but from Artem, he wants to know, what tier do you think you are in the 5-tier system?
You said that I was a 2, I think, on my way to being a 3, and I agreed with that. I have no quarrels about your system.
I said that on the way to being a 3?
Well, I think you said that originally, and then to troll me and to continue trolling me, you said I'm like a 0, 1, a negative. I mean, I've been everything from fucking -2. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've been a -2.
Yeah, the trolling really gets me all over the place, doesn't it? Like, it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge if I'm bullshitting or not.
Depends on what day some days you're like, dude, you're at a 10, but some days your trolling's
garbage.
It's soft.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've been watching
it's like
some other podcasts, but you got to quit that shit.
It's like hand control, right? When you try to do too much quantity, the quality fades away. If you want to up your quality and you pull back on the quantity, so it's like trolling's no different. If I want to troll 12 hours out of a 24-hour period, there'll be some weak sloppy shit. Can't keep up that pace. Yeah. If I want to take a day off and come in fresh with 2 hours of straight A+ banging, it'll be gold. But it's like anything else.
So moral is save the good hours for obviously the quality.
What I really do,
right?
I test my junk on you. I test my bottom of the barrel shit trolling junk on you and see how it rolls off. And then I decide.
I will let you know when it's weak. I will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. Question.
Yeah.
I got one comment from BLM. BLM, I'm probably not going to Costa Rica due to the WAF URPA bull crap. So I probably won't see you in that weight class. Reza asked, how do I handle a puller like Prudnik? The truth is, you don't handle a puller like Prudnik.
No one does.
You grip up with him. Yeah. You grip up with him. You realize that his thumb has you set down low on his arm. You're like super deep in his hand, so there's no way you could top roll anybody like this.
Fucking volume's fucked.
And then you think, oh my God, I have to go hook with him, and then the ref says go, and you get flashed. So that's really what happens when you pull Prudnik. Another question was, Gobby, quick question. What's your favorite training tool? They didn't care about my opinion or Joe's opinion. They wanted to know what your favorite tool was.
Well, when it comes to hand and wrist, the thing I work with the most is the wrist wrench, only because the problem with most wrist curls or even rolling thunders is the resistance. So let's say you're doing a wrist curl off your leg. Generally, the resistance, as it comes closer, as you gain more cup, sometimes depending on your angle, the resistance lowers. Now, in arm wrestling, it's the opposite. In arm wrestling, if I'm wrist curling you, the more I want to get more reflection, the more resistance, the harder it is. Therefore, there's going to be more resistance. And the wrist wrench amplifies that. So I think the wrist wrench, and I put heavy tape around it. So I have like a 3.5 inch wrist wrench, and you can do pronation cupping. You can do supination, defensive cupping. So I love it. It's my go-to. I use many things, but if I only had to use one, that's it. Now, when it comes to specific arm wrestling gym training, I think my go-to training is probably, it used to be just a general partial static hold off a preacher, a fairly open angle, but, not sloppy. But ever since I started doing what Dalton Baumgartner or Devin, that tight, lowering, lighter weight, but a lot tighter angle, the full spectrum of my hook has gotten better, from the tight to the more open, neutral to losing position angle. So when it comes to that, I would say my favorite or my go-to, one thing I don't like going weeks and weeks without, because I find my power drops off, would be that a Dalton Baumgartner or a Devin tight, full static preacher static. That would definitely be my favorite.
All right, Gobby,
most valuable.
Quick question. Do you do dumped wrist curls?
Don't care who you are, unless you're Jerry Caderet. When you're doing a wrist curl, never, ever, ever you go neutral to up. You never go past neutral. On the table, even on an arm wrestling table, if I see one guy's opening up the angle and someone's other wrist goes past neutral, I stop the match. Once you teach your wrist to go past neutral, you're teaching it to encourage or welcome an opening of it. So
let me ask you this: when I read dumped, I assume they meant
rising.
Yeah, your riser.
Same. It's the same principle. If
down and then training wrist curl.
If you want to be a winning arm wrestler, train winning positions. You train losing positions, you're going to be more susceptible to getting put into that losing position. When we have this with Greg Gray, Arnold champion. When you do that kettlebell thing, he would drop his wrist rising. Never drop it. Keep it neutral. I believe in keeping it high, letting gravity and resistance bring it to neutral, holding the neutral, and then once you lose that neutral, you stop and you go to the left hand, or you take a 30-second break and you repeat. But never ever, whether it's bicep curls, whether it's static curls, whether it's wrist flexion or whether it's wrist rising, never ever ever go past neutral to the losing side. Ever ever ever. I don't see any benefit. Now, if they say, well, if you don't work full flexion, you can develop tendonitis, inflammation. So maybe if you want to grab a fucking 10-pound thing and just do full motion stuff to warm up, but never in my life have I ever gone past neutral in any type of wrist or anything. And I've never ever had, I've had some shoulder, some chronic elbow stuff, but I've never ever had hand or wrist or tendon issues by sticking to neutral to positive, whether it's in the supination or rising element.
Another question: is Joe legally blind? That is from the audience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you took off your glasses, could you see us, or would we just be one complete blur?
It's just black.
Yeah, it's a complete.
Wait, really?
Black mass.
Really?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, man. I'm just really sensitive to blue light spectrum.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. I've got a question regarding Dalton. So James Work has heard you mention Dalton several times. I guess this is to Chris.
Yeah, Tennessee boys, yeah.
Who does he think has the better left, him or Dalton, and why?
Me or Dalton?
Yeah.
Well, pound for pound, it's him. Like, if I had to meet him at 145, he'd beat me. If I can be 165 to his 150, I think he sits around 145, 150, maybe 154 now. But me and my
he's over 154 because he said he's not cutting to 154 unless it's money.
So if I'm pulling in a 165 because I'm sitting at 160 and he's pulling in a 154 because he's sitting at 150, and it's an elite 3 to 4 tier tournament, I'd probably give him the edge finishing higher than me. But if him and I had a super match and we had a catch weight at anything above 160, I like my chances only because I have a history of just eating up top rollers. Like how do you think Dalton would do against Dan Blanchard? I think he'd get eaten up, right? And I stopped him in his, well, not in his tracks, but I stopped him his pronation and I swung him across, albeit he was somewhat ill. Tons of respect for that man, but I believe if I can sit at my weight, I get him only because I'm the bigger, stronger guy. And my style just eats up pronation, which is why I did so good at Michigan. It was a top roll heavy class, and I just went through everyone. I lose more matches. If you look at all the matches I've lost in my career, I would say if I've lost 100 matches, 95 are via top rollers, hookers, high hookers that can get me open and hold me there. I eat up top rollers. But he has a hook too. But pound for pound, he is better. Him at 154, me at 165, he is the more dominant left, I believe. So the answer would be him. He's younger. He's awesome. I love that kid. For his weight, he's awesome. Yeah, great kid. Great left.
Next question. We'll start with Joe first. What do you think about sprints for recovery? And I'll add on, do you do any running?
No, I had knee surgery. I used to be a skateboarder, so no. I don't do any sort of running.
Gobby?
Nope. Well, like any other question, it's always dependent on multiple things, and this is age dependent. Before 35, 36, 37, I didn't touch legs. I didn't do anything. I had a sea of natural test. Didn't have to do any of that stuff. For recovery, anytime you can get blood flow into your complete body, it helps recovery. So I might have done some, but I could tell you now, north of 40, sprinting, but I'm not a big fan of just heavy sprinting. What I do is I sprint with a sled. So I push a sled with 100, 150 pounds on it. And when I say run, like you see linebackers do, it's on AstroTurf and it's moving at a slow pace, but basically you're building internal pressure and, it's great for hormone output and all that stuff. But I do believe all these little things, especially as you get older, you have to access every amount of ability to recover quicker. And everything you lose with age, hormones and recovery rate, you have to implement training systems to try to bridge the gap between you and your 25-year-old counterparts. So yes, I love sprinting. I prefer the sled over running on dirt road or concrete or treadmill because it's lower impact. I don't want to put heavy impact on my knees. I don't want to be having trouble when I'm 70. So I prefer lower impact, higher resistance training over lower resistance, high impact like sprinting or jogging. Jogging is the worst goddamn thing in the world. But yeah, I even think putting on 3-4 hoodies and a toque and speed walking is great because you get your body temperature up and it's good for recovery. Or we'd see Todd Hutchins walk with chains, right? He'd walk with, or the hammers. Anything that low volume brings blood into your body is good for recovery, as long as it's not high impact. I'm not a fan of high impact training when you can get that same training, same benefit with low impact, higher resistance. And the lower impact, higher resistance has a better carryover to your hormone output than jogging. I've read a couple times where someone claimed that no man is ever closer to becoming a woman when he's jogging because estrogen goes up, testosterone goes down when a man jogs, not walks or sprints. When he jogs, and that's why you see a lot of long distance runners. They're not built like men, right? They're very soft. They're thin, but they're not lean. They're very soft, and not a fan of jogging at all.
I think sprinting has a place in overall strength development, fitness development, and even hormone management. But I don't see sprinting as a recovery tool due to the impact that Gobby mentioned. And if you were truly sprinting, I think you're probably going to be using up central nervous system resources that you need for your
ton.
So I'll never see sprinting as a recovery tool, but it is a tool in your strength training program and your overall fitness development and health program. Now, do I sprint? Do I run? Usually my sprinting or running is going to be in the context of pickup basketball. And so you're talking about half-court basketball, so super fast, super explosive, probably no more than 10 to 15 feet burst at any given point in time, and then you rest. I think that's good from a strength development standpoint and explosive development standpoint. I think it does carry over to the table and my weightlifting. But yeah, I'm not going to be programming any sprints anytime soon. And if I wanted to, it would probably be sprints on a cycle, a stationary cycle or a bicycle. However, my risk there would be doing too much volume and building up too much leg mass. So that's kind of my stance on it. I think Kang's mentioned that the Kazakhstan team sprints before every event. And so that's the central nervous system priming tool they're using to prime their system and prime their cells for explosive movements on the table. So that's how I would use those things.
Yeah, it's also great to warm up the body. Another thing that's been, if I may add, that's been untapped in the arm wrestling world is there is something that when we're talking about recovery, what you want to do is you want to bring up general blood flow. You want to bring up body heat without creating too much impact or creating too much strain on the tendons or muscles. So it's counterproductive. But hot yoga, although it sounds gay as hell, hot yoga, you sweat buckets. You're in positions that, especially in a lot of the positions where you're kind of like in a push-up or a plank position, where blood is flowing from your wrist to your shoulder through your chest, not enough to cause tendon exertion or to any point. You're holding for 2 minutes and then you take a break. But that, I believe, and I do it on occasion, is incredible for recovery. Yeah. Good for core strength too and flexibility, but it is great for recovery. It gets everything you need without impacting anything that might be counterproductive to your training cycle or volume.
Okay. We have another question from Adrian O'Dwyer, who's probably the greatest athlete in the sport of arm wrestling.
He's the best. He's the best conditioned shitty arm wrestler in the planet.
Well, I mean, he stuck Makiev at Zloty. He didn't beat him, but Makiev couldn't top roll him. That guy has a lot of potential. I tried to get him to Louisiana, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
6'5", 260? Is that what he is?
I don't know if he's 260, but he pulled 231s at Zloty.
Okay.
But yeah, that dude's a beast. He asked, do you get sports massage therapy during heavy training?
It has benefits. Recently it wasn't covered in my insurance, so I didn't. It's expensive, but it does, again, it helps, right? I've done it before and it helps. I used to do before a big tournament. If I had aches and pains, I'd go get a deep tissue massage the day before. And I've done it 3 times before a tournament, and all those tournaments I performed incredibly well. Everything was just nicely, the fibers were ready to go. There was no tightness. There was no, so I think it has benefits. Is it a make or break thing? No, but it has benefits, just like many other things.
Do you get massage therapy, Joseph?
I actually haven't done it yet, but I'm really close to going to do it. I just have to get through a couple more events. So you said you do it a day before, or how many days before, Chris?
Well, I've done it 3 times, and every time I did it was leading up to a big event where I kind of felt certain areas. My back and traps take a hell of a beating when I do I do a lot of farmers lifts. I do a lot of my grip stuff is compounded with heavy back and like upright rows and stuff like that, deadlifts. So it's good for I hold a lot of tension in my neck because of it, my traps. So let's say the tournament's on a Saturday, I'm leaving early Saturday morning, Friday evening after supper or in late afternoon, I'll go, 90-minute session, mostly on my upper body. And it also relaxes any little bit of anxiety or stress. You don't want to be.
So you're saying the day before?
Yeah. Well, I've done. I'm not saying there's a science behind it. I'm just saying the times I've done.
You sore?
No, it doesn't make me sore. It relaxes everything. I'm in a constant. I'm constantly tensed up and overtrained, especially in certain areas. And so that just and going into a tournament, I get very anxious. Hell, sometimes there's a little bit of anxiety going into a practice because I'm so competitive. So just it just relaxes me. So the night before, when I'd be anxious and looking forward to the tournament, and my mind buzzing around and my body wanting to go, it kind of puts me in a nice Zen type spiritual and physical state where I have a little bit more of that energy the next day to expend. So is it a make or break thing? It's not going to help you win a tournament, but I think, it's a 1%, 2% bump of it. Definitely doesn't hurt.
So do you go to like a regular chain style massage place, or do you go to like a specialist, say?
Theoretically, what I should do is I should go see a licensed massotherapist. We'll call them in Quebec.
Kinesiologist.
Yeah, whatever they are. But what I usually do is to save a little bit of money and get a little bit extra, I go see the Asian gal behind the strip mall, and I still get the benefits. Plus, I get a little bit of I still get a little stuff. A little bit of I get to unwind a little bit.
Hot towel afterwards, or what?
There's a little bit of I get to unwind and release some tension afterwards. So
I was wondering if I was going to have to bring it up, or are you going to bring it up?
Yeah.
So personally, I've spent probably thousands of dollars per year on massage therapy, and out of kind of necessity, it was probably the only thing over the last couple of years that was keeping my left arm.
Oh shit! Now I'm really gonna go
from shriveling up into nothingness due to nerve issues in my neck. And I would bet, had I not done the massage therapy, not only would my left arm would be gone, but I would have bet that my right would have developed nerve issues stemming from my neck. So I see the value in it. Later on, I went to a chiropractor. He identified the issue, and basically you go to a session. Well, let me take a step back. I could go 3 weeks into a training program. Towards the end of it, my left arm would be half as strong as my right arm. Right. Go to massage therapy. I get most of the strength back. When I went, after a couple years of that, I finally went to a chiropractor. He identified the problem, and within 4 weeks, my bicep strength went up like 20%. So awesome. He didn't only give me my strength back in my left arm, but he was able to free up my nerves so that both arms could regain strength that it was missing. I haven't done a ton of massage therapy this year or chiropractor visits because I've been training with a friend. He's kind of got me going through a lot of stretching and mobility and neck work. So this is the first 12-month period where I haven't had recurring neck strains and complete strength drop-offs due to nerve damage. And that's all without therapy, without chiropractor visits and all that stuff. So that's stuff you can do at home, but I do see a lot of value in massage therapy. And the new guy that I met out here in my current location, I went to him maybe a couple weeks before his Lottie, a few weeks before his Lottie. And 2 days after leaving his office, my strength went up 10% on 2 different hand exercises.
Wow.
He was a massage therapist, but he's the best guy that I've ever seen. Yep. So Adrian, you're probably overdue for a massage appointment if you haven't been going, considering all the training you've been doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, try it, Joseph. It definitely won't hurt.
Yeah, I definitely want to. Like, now I want to more than anything since Herman put a lot of value into it. If it's paid dividends for you, I have to at least try it. But my question to you is, when you went to the chiropractor, was it a specialized, like, sports chiropractor, or was it just a regular, like, and also the massage therapist, was it a specialized one? You know what I mean?
I know I've seen like all of the above, good, bad, licensed and bad, and then licensed and then like gifted type people.
Okay. Yep.
The lady I had in Bakersfield was one of those people that take people that can't walk and make them walk again. The guy that I have here in Lake Charles is probably almost my size and strength level. So he's literally pulling my muscles off the bones. So, good luck finding either of those last 2 people that I discussed. It's taken me, it takes years to really find some of these people, but it's possible that you get lucky and find the right person on the first day.
Wow.
But I'll say that it's a balancing act. I was going weekly for a long time to manage the nerve issue. But when you're that loose all the time, it's harder to build the strength. So the past 12 months, since I haven't had to get therapy, I've actually been able to get stronger because I could remain tighter in the right places without developing the issues.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know what I'm more surprised
about. But I think we lost Gobby. Gobby, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I hear him.
He's got me. I'm still here as far as
I can't hear him.
What? He muted you.
Can't be.
All right. Well, I'll say this. It's probably a good ending point. So we'll wrap it up here today. That sounds good, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good on my end. I mean, I had some shitty technical difficulties, and I apologize, but that's it.
Yeah. All right. Later, guys. Thanks for the questions.
All right, guys.
Later,
no
Joe. Later, Chris.
Bye.